All right, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. The weekend is finally here, so that's some Premier League soccer time. So, welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Show. Today, this evening, we are going to be discussing our showdown of the week. We have Manchester United hosting West Ham this Sunday. So, we're going to want to chop this one up, digest the team news a little bit, see what the cash game strategy and the prices are looking like, and then maybe dig into some of those tournaments. We have about, I think, 2,200 people in the main GPP, so we'll try to see if we can get just a little bit different enough so we have a shot at that, 10K or something like that first place prize. All right. So like I mentioned before, we have Manchester United. They're about 60% favorites hosting West Ham United, who are pretty big dogs. And the total's fine, 2.86. That's pretty normal for a Premier League fixture. But there's kind of a big question mark surrounding this match that we want to get to right away. And that is the status, you'll notice right here, if you look at the lineup, of Jared Bowen, who's questionable. Now, I was kind of digging into this news, so I looked at what David Moyes said in his presser. So if you click on Jared Bowen's name, you can see this. And David Moyes said, we didn't see Jared. He had an ankle injury. He's done a little bit of running on the grass today. So we'll need to see how he is. So I don't know. David Moyes is kind of useless for these sorts of things. But it does seem to me like Bowen is on the wrong side of questionable. That said, we are going to project him as if he is playing. There might be a couple things that happen if he is out. So the first thing you'll notice is that West Ham are dealing with quite a few injuries. So Cornet is out and Paqueta is also out next week. So probably the natural like-for-like replacement for Bowen in this sort of situation, I would say that's going to be Pablo Fornals. And he's priced pretty favorably in this fixture. I think he's around 5,400. So that actually might come to play in cash games, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. If Fornals is on the field, maybe he takes a couple set pieces. And that's actually kind of another important consequence of Bowen perhaps not playing. So if Bowen is out, where do all the set pieces go? Lately, Bowen has been splitting set pieces with Aaron Cresswell. And the Cresswell, he can take corners from both sides. So maybe there is a little bit of upside for Cresswell in this situation. The matchup is poor, but if West Ham can get enough corners, they've been generating corners at a pretty high rate. I have about a little more 5 per game. Then Cresswell's floor might get a little bit of a boost, and he's priced somewhat favorably, like I said, in a tough matchup. So Fornals might bite into that if he goes in there. I think it also means that we can project pretty solid minutes for all of our West Ham players here. I guess maybe one outside the box thing that I thought could happen. So a few weeks ago, Emerson started as like a left wing back, left midfielder sort of situation for West Ham. And I don't know, they didn't really do that well. I think that was a 1-1 draw against Southampton. So maybe there's a small chance that David Moyes opts to go, if his forwards aren't healthy, maybe he wants to use a back 5 and utilize wing backs or something like that. That might be a bit of a downgrade for Cresswell in that sort of situation. He might play left-sided center back. Although he scored 10 points against Southampton, he can get there on the corner kicks. Although we have to say Manchester United are a much more difficult matchup there. So that's going to be the thing that we're looking at right here. Otherwise, pretty standard fare. This is West Ham's best squad, and it's their fittest squad. There's this new young player, Flynn Downs. He's been playing attacking midfielder. He looks okay, but he's nothing spectacular right there. Ben Rama took a penalty last weekend, and then the usual suspects. I mean, maybe Antonio starts instead of Skamaka. And we're feeling pretty good about this Manchester United lineup here. Ronaldo started over Thursday. I doubt he gets to start again after he threw that temper tantrum recently. And then we have our standard fare right here. Bruno Fernandes in great form. Christian Eriksen's back. Let's start digging in to the cash game situation. So even in cash games, especially in Showdown, we do want to be aware, are there any players with like outstanding goal scoring odds? So we might have to reconsider our strategy for Ronaldo starts. I do consider that unlikely. But our highest goal scoring odds, we have Rashford at plus 185. I believe Bruno still takes penalties if Ronaldo's not on the pitch. So at plus 195, so that's a little bit of a boost. So no one is going to be necessarily a must-have for their goal scoring odds. So we're going to want to be looking at player floors, and we're probably going to be wanting to look at set pieces. And when Christian Eriksen starts, he is going to be taking most of the corners for Manchester United. So I was thinking, I'm a Tottenham fan, so I love Christian Eriksen. So maybe that makes Christian Eriksen a good candidate for the captain spots this week. United are massive favorites. But I started to use the RotoWire tools. I went all the way up, and I clicked on this nice little team stats all the way up here, and I started to do a little bit of filtering, and I found out that, I think it's something that's intuitive to us. Manchester United have not been a particularly good fantasy scoring outfit this season. So they're, I think, third lowest in the Premier League in corners. They've taken 43 corners in 12 matches. So if we're even, this includes matches where they're favorites. So maybe this means that we don't necessarily have to overvalue the corners. Like, over under for corners for United, this match might be around 5. So is that something that you really want to play Christian Eriksen in if he's a defensive midfielder? Do we want to prioritize him in the captain spot just because he might, get the Manchester United average of 4 corners per game? That's something I'm a little bit skeptical of. The other person, Bruno Fernandes, he's been in excellent form lately. He scored a goal against Tottenham, maybe 2. I forget exactly. I'm trying to wipe that game from my brain. But yeah, Bruno's been beating Christian Eriksen even without the set pieces. So, I mean, he's priced that way. And I still think that he's probably going to be someone who we're going to want to make our cash game captain right there. So I think Eriksen and Bruno are going to get most of the looks for the captain spot. You always see some unusual things. I'm sure some people will put Rashford in the captain. Maybe some people will put Antony because he takes a lot of shots. But I think if you're kind of maybe playing a more classical cash game route, Bruno Fernandes makes a ton of sense. He's still creating a ton of chances. So let's see right here. I mean, he still gets some crosses and open play. He is one of the best chance creators on the pitch. He is one of the better shots on goal, and he's reasonably likely to score a goal. So he's kind of got a good balance of in-game upside and standard, offensive peripheral floor that we like to see. So, while I will probably play Christian Eriksen in a cash game roster, I am definitely just more likely to put in Bruno. It depends on how the lineups sort out. Now, if we sort by salary right here, we'll notice Jared Bowen is priced at 11,000. Even if he was perfectly fit, that would be a tournament play only for me. I just don't see how he gets there against the Manchester United side that kind of like suffocate other opponents. They like to take a lot of the possession. I think Manchester United will have the possession in this game, maybe around 60%. So, I mean, if Bowen's on the field, he's going to be splitting set pieces with Cresswell. It's just not a very fantasy fruitful type of situation right there. So I think he's a bit too expensive to play. So we talked about Bruno. Benrahma is going to be too expensive for cash games. Scamacca, we're not going to want to prioritize him. I think if we scroll all the way up, we'll see that Scamacca, he's anytime plus 330 to score. So that is something that we do not want to prioritize in our lineups as well. So I think the first 2 guys in your lineup, they're going to be Christian Eriksen and then Bruno Fernandes. And then I think the fun starts to begin at this point. There's going to be a couple possible directions that your cash game lineup can go. So maybe the standard cash move is let's jam in the set pieces. So maybe we definitely say, all right, let's just put in Aaron Cresswell. So in this sort of construction, you have Bruno Fernandes, Christian Eriksen, then Aaron Cresswell. What are we going to do with the rest of our lineup spots in that sort of case? Well, I think because Manchester United are favorites, we might want to put in at least one of Antony or at least one of Marcus Rashford. These are probably the 2 best attacking players that we haven't included already, the 2 best floor options, most likely to get shots and most likely to score. I guess Sancho is also an option. He's priced a little bit more favorably, but I don't think you need the salary. And I think he's a little bit more of a rotation risk. So if you put in Cresswell, okay, maybe we can slot in Antony and then we see what happens. And you're left with about 9,000 salary. So maybe we throw in a Luke Shaw and you have to scroll all the way down and we might not be left with enough salary, actually. Maybe have to play, maybe we'd have to punt at one of the center back slots and play someone like a Casemiro or a Dalot right there. So maybe we do Casemiro and then you can afford someone like a Victor Lindelof. So that's definitely one route that I think you can take. So I think you would be playing in this sort of situation, you would be playing 5 Manchester United players. And based on the prices, I prefer Manchester United players almost entirely across the board to their West Ham counterparts. So I think that type of construction will make sense and it will be popular in cash games. And, they're a home favorite. So it works out totally fine. And in this way, you get one of the Manchester United goal scorers and you're going to basically get most of the set pieces. You'll get just about all of them if Bowen doesn't start. That said, I'm not the most enthusiastic about this construction. I still have to chew on it a little bit. I'm just struggling with playing, someone like Cresswell in this situation when it's not that great of a matchup. I mean, if we look at some of his previous games, maybe we can click on one of them right here. I think he's still been doing it against better opposition. So I'm having trouble getting this loaded up right here. So I have it up on a tab. So if we look at Cresswell's old scoring, so I mean, he got 19 points against Bournemouth. He was prolific there. But I mean, he's gotten there in unfavorable matchups. He scored 11.7 points against Liverpool. And he scored recently. He's been in really good form. He scored 13.2 points against Southampton. So, I mean, maybe this is a little bit wrong, because he has shown that he can get that floor against Liverpool. I don't know. Maybe I would just rather, if Manchester United score a few goals, and then in cash games and your double ups, Antony and Rashford, they're all going to get looks. I'm kind of tempted to see what I can do if I actually play both of them, because Antony can still have a nice floor. He whips and crosses a little bit. And then Rashford still has a solid floor right here, mostly based on the shots on goal, which we should speculate. He should be live for 2 or 3 of those. And so if we do that sort of situation, you can make this construction work. You don't have that much salary left, and you do have to play a West Ham player, but you can just play someone like Flynn Downs. And, in this type of situation, we say, well, maybe in the median game script, Manchester United get most of the possession. West Ham aren't able to score a lot of points. United score 2 goals. We are very likely to have those 2 goals. And then you can just play someone like Downs, and then you have a little bit of salary left. I mean, probably just have to play a center back or something like that. So I think those are like kind of 2 of the standard cash game routes that you can take. I think Bruno's going to be the most popular captain, although you can consider Eriksen. Maybe if you swap him for Eriksen, you get like an extra few $100s. Maybe that gets you a player that you want. Maybe something like that makes sense, especially if Fornals starts. But I think we're going to be looking at cash game lineups, looking something like, Bruno, Eriksen, and then a key decision point, which West Ham player do we play? If you pay down for Flynn Downs, well, then you can get 2 of the attackers and you're more likely to get all of the goals. Or you can pay up for Cresswell. That makes a lot more sense when Bowen doesn't play. You can get every single set piece. Cresswell has been playing well. He's been able to get a decent floor against better opposition. And then, maybe fit in someone like a Luke Shaw and then punt right there. So, yeah, Luke Shaw, he's probably going to be someone that we want to consider right here. How has Shaw been doing lately? If I'm taking a peek. So Luke Shaw lately, he's been pretty good. He's been live for a full 90 minutes lately. I think his floor has been solid. Yeah, he scored 12 points against 11.2 points against Chelsea. That was with an assist. He got a 13-point floor against Tottenham. So, I mean, Luke Shaw is also someone that we might want to consider in that sort of construction. So maybe in the situation where we play, instead of 2 United attackers, you want to go up to someone like, you want to go ahead and play Cresswell, and then maybe we can try to get Shaw in there. That's a little too much, but maybe you go down to Rashford instead, because Antony versus Rashford, maybe they shouldn't be $2,500 apart based on salary, so $2,400. Yeah, you can definitely make something like that work. So, throw in one of the United attackers and play Luke Shaw. Do that along with Cresswell or Downs right there. So I think that's kind of what the cash game setup is going to look like. A lot of 5-1, maybe 4-2 constructions. We have Bruno and Eriksen at the captain. We are prioritizing getting those attackers in there, and then just some decision points around which West Ham player we play. Do we want Shaw in there? That sort of stuff. Just pay attention to when lineups come out, and then you can sort of file, how we're going to bump up Cresswell or bump him down, depending on if Bowen is in. All right, that is 14 minutes of cash game discussion. That is plenty of that. So let's get into everyone's sort of favorite thing, our tournament strategy. So as far as tournaments go, it's just good to know the cash game construction, right? So tournaments are going to be leaning on the heavier side of 5-1, kind of lineups that work really well when United win 2-0 or 2-1. Well, maybe 5-1 doesn't actually work too well when Manchester United win 2-0 because, David De Gea might get there on the clean sheet. But we are going to be expecting the Manchester United players to be utilized very, very heavily. They're going to be rostered very aggressively by the field. And so maybe that just gives us, how do we get a little bit different? How do we get maybe those lower utilized players in our lineup so that when things go our way, we can vault up that first place prize, which is like almost like a third or 25% of the prize pool. And the first idea I have to this is that if you're playing Christian Eriksen, Somehow he's a plus. I think if I saw this right here. So Christian Eriksen is plus 270 to score a goal, which feels really high. I don't know. I don't think he's on penalties or anything. Maybe I'm missing something. He has not scored a free kick goal in a very long time. He used to do that all the time for Spurs. But that feels a little too high. And he sort of feels like a Tony Cruz type play. He has a nice floor. Maybe that's what you want in cash games. But what you can take, if you just want to build a decent tournament lineup and throw it in, you can remove your Christian Eriksen right there. And then maybe that's the opportunity that you say, okay, I maybe don't want to play Jadon Sancho in cash, but I can throw him in my lineup right there. And then maybe you say, well, I'm playing Luke Shaw, so maybe they also keep a clean sheet. So you get like Bruno, Sancho, De Gea, Shaw, and then you can play whoever you want, whoever has the best floor from that sort of point. So I think just making some sensible 2v2s off your cash game lineup using these United players, that's kind of going to fit you into a decent GPP lineup. But I think that's kind of what the field is going to be doing as well. Again, these 5-1, 4-2 Manchester United, majority Manchester United lineups are going to be quite popular. But I mean, the guys that we're going to want to sub in that sort of situation, swap out Eriksen for Sancho, or, maybe put Casemiro. He's a little bit more likely to score a goal than Luke Shaw. If you play Shaw or Dalot, maybe try to put in De Gea or something like this. I think those are very sensible, non-galaxy brained approaches to tournaments this week. If you want to get a little bit different, maybe you could think about playing something like a 1-1 script, like the game ends in a 1-1 draw. And in that sort of case, well, Manchester United only get one goal. And we talked about how they don't really rack up that many floor points. They've got 43 corners this season. They only average like 10 crosses per game. They're a little bit better at shots, but like they're not really racking up all of these, valuable DraftKings crossing points. So if the game ends in a 1-1, maybe instead of taking a 5-1 or a 4-2 Manchester United construction, we can hope that we get the goal and assist from both sides. So you can put in the captain spot your favorite Manchester United goal scorer. You pair him with Bruno if Bruno's not in the captain spot already. And then, Christian Eriksen, I think, is just 200 less. Let's check this out. So if I go through the cheat sheet, yeah, Eriksen is just 200 less than Scamacca. So maybe especially if you have someone like Cresswell in there, so you have Cresswell, maybe he assists on a set piece. You upgrade Eriksen to Scamacca, and then maybe you can just play, whoever you want really on the West Ham side. So, maybe Souček gets some shots on goals. Although 5,200 is kind of expensive. And what are his odds to score in this game? Usually they're around plus 300, plus 800. Okay, so maybe Souček isn't necessarily the best option. But I think maybe the idea would be, maybe this is the spot that instead of Antony, you play Jared Bowen if you have that in your cash game lineup. Or instead of Marcus Rashford, you try to find the extra 1,000 to play Benrahma. I don't think salaries are so tight. You can definitely do that. And so in this sort of way, you can make these 3-3 constructions that I think will do well if you nail those goal scorers. I mean, West Ham are favored to score goals, so maybe this is even good in a 2-1 type of script where United still win. But a 3-3, that's going to be kind of nice, I think. I think it's going to be a little bit different from the field, and you get to take advantage of some of these lower-owned West Ham players, especially in GPPs. If we fade them in cash games, maybe we want a little equity in there anyways, so that we're not left tilting too much about that. So that's one pretty direct route using the cash game construction that I'm interested in taking. Thinking a little bit more outside the box. So I think, if you don't want to captain Bruno, I really like captaining Antony, paying up all the way. I don't know, maybe salary's not really prohibitive, but the nice thing is that if you have a favorite Manchester United player, maybe you like a matchup, you're really deep in the weeds. I think the utilization of the Manchester United goal scorers is going to be spread out because there's like 4 to 5 viable ones. So that's also going to be kind of useful. I don't think maybe Bruno's going to be a little high up there, but you can just captain Rashford instead, or you can captain Antony, get very similar goal upside there. Maybe take advantage of a slightly overutilized Bruno without set pieces. In tournaments, Bruno without set pieces captain, I mean, at that high of utilization, he's probably going to need like a goal and assist. He's going to need to have another monster game. Maybe that's a little bit more difficult with Eriksen out. One thing that I tinkered with, kind of thinking outside the box. So I'm always thinking about these 1-0 constructions. I wrote an article about it. You can find it on the site. Maybe I'll link to it in the Discord if you want to see it again. But I'm thinking about it's kind of difficult to choose which Manchester United attacker that you want. But I took a look, and if you captain Luke Shaw, you can start to fit a lot of these guys in. So Luke Shaw's been playing really well lately. Maybe Manchester United win 1-0 or 2-0, and Luke Shaw just gets the assist, right? Manchester United all otherwise dominate the game. Well, if you play Luke Shaw, you can then play Anthony, Bruno, and Rashford. You definitely have the salary for this, and you're not even left punting in any of your slots. So you can captain Luke Shaw with De Gea and fit in 3 of the Manchester United attackers there. That's something that seems really appealing to me on this particular slate. Like I said, especially no one's really favored to score a brace. So if Shaw is involved in any way, and there's 2 goals, or someone really hits a floor, so Anthony just hits a floor based on shots, or you could even just use Eriksen if you want, if it's like a 1-0 type of situation. These little kind of thinking through all of this, what happens if Luke Shaw scores a goal? I don't think he's going to be too popular at captain because there are so many popular options, popular attackers. I think that's a nice way to, it's a little bit contrarian. It's going to, not min cash a lot, but when it's successful, I think you're very likely to be vaulted up the rankings. So considering what you can do with Luke Shaw or even Diego Dalot, I think that's definitely one way we can roll right there. I mean, I think that just about covers most of the tournament angles that we're going to want to do. So we're going to be following the Bowen news. In tournaments, maybe try to, sprinkle in some West Ham attackers just in case, Manchester United don't keep that clean sheet. We treat Eriksen like Kroos. We can try to get other attackers in. But one last thing I wanted to point out right here is that Lucas Fabianski is very favorably priced. So we do not have the goalkeeper prices on the cheat sheet, but maybe we can do our favorite segments to end this Friday afternoon. We can do our favorite goalkeeper captain segment right here. So David De Gea, he's priced at 6,600. I played the Chelsea showdown last week, and in the main GPP, Kepa was 9.2% rostered in the captain spot. So I don't want to do the goalkeeper captain strategy when the goalkeeper is around 10%. I feel like we need to move on to a new bit at that sort of point. So let's see what can happen if we go all the way down to our favorite Lucas Fabianski right here. So we got West Ham. They pull off the big upset at Old Trafford. I mean, Lucas Fabianski is only 4,600. You can definitely play him, across from Anthony or something like that and hope he saves a bunch of Anthony's shots on target. But what we can do is we can throw in Lucas Fabianski right here. And then we're definitely going to want to play Aaron Cresswell. He's going to get all the set pieces. And then maybe, Benrahma gets a penalty or something like that. So maybe that's the move right there. Bowen will still be used if he's active. And I think Scamacca is going to be popular because he's cheaper. So maybe we'll just middle it right there and do a little Fabianski, Cresswell, Benrahma combination right there. So let's just say maybe West Ham are getting their goal early in this situation, and then they bunker down. And then we're left with a ton of salary, average salary of 8,700. So then we can finally, throw in our Eriksen, Bruno Fernandes, and then of course we can throw in our Luke Shaw, fullbacks going up as they chase a game. So there you go. I think that's going to be your winner right there. Put a little Lucas Fabianski if you want to really think outside the box right there. Fabianski and Cresswell. Hope you nail that West Ham goal, and then hopefully the Manchester United pieces rain plenty of shots on goal at that point. Yeah, I mean, that's been 24 minutes already. Hopefully we've covered most of the angles that we want to think about in this showdown. So yeah, let's wrap this up. So if you haven't already, earlier in the day, Ryan and Adam, they chopped up our big 5-game slate. So that should be a fun one. A lot of routes to go to. Otherwise, join. There's a link for the 10-day free trial. Come in and hop in the Discord. There's great conversations. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend.